You and this MacBook have a lot in common. It's been 10 years since its parts have been touched and its batteries are ready to burst. This 2014 MacBook Pro is Apple's worst nightmare because after 10 years, it's still working. And when my customer brought it to them to have the battery replaced, they said, "F you, buy something new." Thankfully, repair shops like mine still exist, so is more than happy to take on the job. With a little alcohol and a plastic spudger, the battery eventually comes out and just kidding, he's fine. With the battery removed, it's time to address the other issues: swamp gooch and old germal paste. Because when these vents get clogged with ass flakes, the MacBook struggles to breathe more than I do when your mother sits on my. Facing this issue requires specialized tools, which is in this case, Subway's toothbrush. So after a scrub job and a blow worthy of an AVN award, the old butt crust is removed and replaced with some PTM thermal pads. Just take a second to admire the before and after. Then give it a wipe down and check that new battery. Nice. I'll fix it myself, they said. What could go wrong, they said. Well, let's find out. This is a 15-inch 2015 MacBook Pro, but this specific MacBook was purchased from a pawn shop and has been abused more than my subscribers. But unlike all of you, this still has potential, or at least it had potential before my customer destroyed it in an attempt to save money. Because these MacBooks have a common issue where the speakers blow themselves up, usually after watching one of my videos, and to replace them requires removing the logic board. Now, you don't have to be
the greatest technician that's ever lived
to do this, but you have to have some basic repair skills, which they clearly lacked. Because both fan latches are broken, the trackpad bracket is backwards, the SSD screw is wrong, the battery is missing a screw and is about to burst, a keyboard backlight cable is crushed under the logic board, and whatever the is going on here with the keyboard. But the reason it's in my repair shop is because the display has no backlight. So this leaves them with 3 options: repair the logic board, use it as a desktop with an external monitor, or my personal recommendation, just kidding, he's gonna use it as a desktop: a buggy MacBook versus a Clorox wipe. Who will win? This is a 2015 MacBook Pro, and like me, it has some issues. The anti-glare coating is peeling off the screen, resulting in a display that looks like a battle-scarred whale. The storage is nearly full. There's a Gooch Beetle that's had enough of this world, and it's overheating. Now, if you've owned one of these models, you've probably had this same screen problem, and even though Apple covered it under a program, they just replaced it with the same defective design. So like most problems, the only real solution is to rub one out, using Clorox wipes to disintegrate the coating. How does this work? I have no idea. I'm just
the greatest technician that's ever lived,
not a chemist. But I have been training my upper body for this very moment. Now, the key to rubbing until completion without causing pain is to be gentle, because if you apply too much pressure, you'll break your panel. Now, doesn't that feel good? You can finally see. Next issue is to upgrade the storage, but we've run into a bug of sorts. Maybe Lupe can help me identify this. Guess not. With the pube lice removed, I slap an adapter in there so I can use a regular 2TB NVMe instead of Apple's proprietary one. Then install macOS using a USB and restore the user's time machine backup using Migration Assistant. And finally force trim and terminal so the SSD doesn't commit Sudoku in a few months. Next up is changing the paste, which takes 5 seconds, and I'm running out of time, so you can find everything I used in my Amazon store, link in bio. This MacBook is feeling the Christmas spirit. Just look at all these beautiful colors. This is a 2019 16-inch MacBook Pro, and it's in desperate need of a Christmas miracle. My customer's water bottle leaked in their backpack, and now their trackpad has a mind of its own. Your father knows all too well that accidental leaks lead to financial burdens, but hopefully this customer doesn't share that same fate. And I have to give Apple credit here, because replacing this trackpad is just as easy as convincing you that I'm
the greatest technician that's ever lived.
Just a few screws and everything comes out to give us a good look at this colorful bundle of this burn is worse than when I paid Lupita to eat my. But it's a Christmas miracle indeed, because I actually have this trackpad on a donor MacBook. So I'll gently recycle this one, Kobe, and take this festivity outside to clean off the crotch dust that's contaminated the fans. Thankfully, I slept over last night, so I have your mom's toothbrush to help me out. And after the new trackpad is in, it's time to tackle this absolute waste of storage known as AVG, a once respected antivirus from 1969 that now uses fear to scare 90-year-olds into giving them money to protect against hacker attacks. And after that's nuked, it's time to nuke this screen of fingerprints and ball grease. Look at that beautiful face. You've heard of the MacBook, but have you ever heard of the LintBook? This 2015 MacBook Pro came into my shop with an issue that's super common on these otherwise very reliable models. And that issue is the keyboard and trackpad not working. A problem caused by the trackpad cable getting damaged by crumbs of food and drugs. Now I've replaced hundreds of these, so of course this job is no match for
the greatest technician that's ever lived.
I just have to unscrew the bottom case and pop it open to Pardon my surprise, but despite the rumors, this is the first time I've ever been MacBook hockeyed, and it was not very pleasant. But as bad as this looks, it's very light dust of the scrotum variety, so with the help of the air duster you can find in my Amazon store, and my overhead air purifier, it was easy to clean. Now to actually fix the problem. See how this cable has more dents than your Gam's Camry? That's because debris sneaks into here and gets pushed against these copper lines that are even more fragile than my ego. When this happens, the trackpad and keyboard stop communicating, like me and my ex-wife. The fix is simple. Unplug the battery, unscrew 2 screws, unplug the cable, unclip from the trackpad, flop around the new one to test its flaccidness, clean the battery, and success. This 2017 MacBook Air was dropped like your job dropped you after they caught you watching anime porn. Thankfully though, these older MacBook displays don't cost an arm and a leg like the newer Retina ones. So there's no need to ask your wife's boyfriend for a loan just to repair it. And repair it is what I'm gonna do. These MacBooks were sold from 2015 until 2019, which is amazing considering they only had a 5th gen dual-core Intel chip that was slow as balls and hot as shit. But it was the last MacBook with upgradable storage and a battery that wasn't glued in. And because of this, it's still quite popular today. And luckily for this customer, I have a bunch of these replacement screens in stock, so I can fix it in an hour instead of waiting a week for a part. And these screens are pretty easy to replace. Just a few screws and a few cables, and the old display pops right out, and the new one slides in just as easy as I slid into your mother. The hardest part is tucking the screen cables back in where they belong, but thankfully I have tiny raccoon-like fingers, so it's no challenge for me. And after I screw everything back in and make sure all the cables are connected, I plug in that battery and hold my breath, hoping I didn't fry anything. Just kidding. Of course I didn't, because I'm
The greatest technician that's ever lived.
The mid-2012 13-inch MacBook Pro is one of the best laptops ever made. Now I know some of you base your entire personalities off of your disdain for Apple products, and I can relate because I used to be one of you. But if this laptop had a ThinkPad logo on it, you'd probably have a tattoo of it on your chest. Well, this MacBook is my personal laptop that I use every day, and it's the laptop that helped me launch my IT career due to its modular repair-friendly design and its high upgradability. Yes, that's right. MacBooks used to be easy to upgrade and repair. The fact that this one is still being used daily after 11 years is probably the reason Apple stopped designing them to be upgradable. Well, I bought this MacBook a very long time ago for under $300. I replaced the stock HDD with a 1TB SSD, slapped in 16GB of RAM, replaced the DVD drive with a 2TB hard drive, and did some thermal mods to make it run a bit cooler. What I have now is a MacBook that can do everything I throw at it in terms of productivity. And check out these beautiful ports. No need for dongles here. I even put Windows 11 on here so I can run both OSs on different screens and enjoy the best of both worlds. Add in an all-aluminum unibody design with the build quality that Apple is known for, and you have what is, in my opinion, one of the best laptops ever made. Of course there were issues, just like every other laptop, the most common being the HDD cable would randomly fail due to debris rubbing against the copper traces inside the cable, and sometimes the hinge would get loose and require the screws to be retightened. But in the grand scheme of things, this laptop was so far ahead of its time, and it really shows how much potential Apple had before they began putting profits and looks over design and function. So what do you think? Have you owned one of these MacBooks? If so, share your experience in the comments.